field that is being used as a replacement for animal therapy in nursing homes, which is really kind of awesome.
So she builds planets on Earth, you guys.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our very special event with SYREN Modern Dance. I'm James Monroe. I'm the producer of adult programs at the Museum of Science, Boston, and I'm so excited to be kicking off this fantastic evening. We all remain such huge fans of the entire company of SYREN Modern Dance and all of their work. We had the chance to stage their hit show, TikTok, on site here at the museum a couple of years ago, and we've continued our relationship with them since. This past summer, while we were all stuck in quarantine, we had the opportunity to join them as they began developing a brand new performance piece called Thina, entirely virtually based. They choreographed, rehearsed, and performed it all through Zoom, and we premiered that as a part of our fall season back in November. And since then, they have continued to work on the piece, and now that the world is slowly starting to reopen, they can actually be together in the same rehearsal studio space and are elevating the piece to really exciting new levels. And tonight, we have the brand new version of Thina to premiere for all of you. And this evening is a part of our current winter-spring virtual season of adult programming. We are nearing the end of our season already, I can't believe it, but there are still some really great events to come over the next 2 weeks. So I encourage you to go check out our website at mos.org/adults, see what we still have to come, and register for your spot in all of those. Now, I'll be back a little bit later on tonight for a conversation and a Q&A with the entire company from SYREN. So if you have questions, you can submit those at any time by going to slido.com and entering the code SYREN. Once again, that's Slido, SLIDO.com, with the code SYREN, SYREN. I need to thank our friends from the Lowell Institute for their ongoing support of the adult programming here at the museum. Without them, we would not be here tonight, and this would not be free for all of you. So please join me in giving a huge virtual round of applause and thanks to everyone at the Lowell Institute. And finally, after the show tonight, I ask all of you to go to donate.mos.org/mosathome and consider making a gift to allow us to keep bringing free virtual programming just like tonight into all of your homes. Once again, that's donate.mos.org/mosathome. But now it's my honor and privilege to turn it over to my friends. Please welcome to the stream, SYREN Modern Dance.
Hello, good evening. Good evening, good evening. Thank you, James. I am Lynn Peterson. Kate St. Amand and I are the co-artistic directors and producers of SYREN Modern Dance. For those of you who we are seeing for the first time tonight, SYREN is from New York City. Since 2003, we've been exploring the world, creating and sharing dance. Some of our curiosities have been human life cycles, ancient Egypt, quantum physics, and time. Many of these explorations push us to reach out across disciplines and collaborate with musicians, artists, and scientists who teach us and who enrich the experience. SYREN's first home is in the magic and brilliance of the live theater. But in many ways, home is where our audience is. And that means bringing dance to living rooms, to classrooms, to street festivals, to parks, to science museums, to art galleries, to government cathedrals, to classrooms, to gymnasiums. We've had the pleasure of being in so many different places, and each of them has tremendous value in how we connect through other people and dance. One moment. Throughout our journey, we have brought our work to cities that have covered over 1/3 of the United States, and we've also toured internationally to France. I am honored to share the stage and the screen with the company members of SYREN. They are the true heartbeat of this work, and I will let them introduce themselves now.
Hi guys, my name is Alice Chacon. I joined the company back in September of 2018. And one of my favorite memories of sharing dance was actually when I was still an understudy. It was in June of 2019 that we performed at Bryant Park. And getting to see the piece of TikTok really being broadcast into and an outdoor performance with all these people was really so uplifting and so magical. And being in the audience, I really felt all the energy there. And it was just one of my favorite moments.
And I'm Jessica Nolan. I also joined fall of 2018. And one of my fondest memories actually comes from that fall. We did a residency at Ohio State University, and it was this rare, beautiful opportunity to spend a whole week. I think we had at least 6 or 7 days just completely dedicated to building TikTok. It was kind of the very first phases of phrase creation and ideas getting thrown around, and we got to dance all day long, which it was just amazing. So it was definitely one of my fondest memories of the company so far.
Hi.
Victoria, why don't you go ahead while we comes back?
Hi, I'm Victoria Ellis. I also joined the company in fall of 2018, and one of my fondest memories comes from that same residency when we were in Columbus, Ohio, working so intently on TikTok and its initial creation. And we had Paul Sutter with us, who's an astrophysicist, and Kate had us all improvise to him just speaking about time and the scientific concepts behind it. And we really let that influence the movement. And it was the first time that I really understood the connection of science and movement. And it was really special.
I think Rivkins is back. He's a little sideways right now. Maybe we can you flip it? Yeah. Well, there we go.
Wait, is it right now?
Yes, you're good.
Oh, there we go.
Okay. I don't know what happened, guys. I'm so sorry. Technology, right? But hi, my name is Rivkins Christopher. I've been with the company for about 5 seasons. 5 seasons. Yes, correct. And one of my greatest moments actually was when I got to perform the Fugue for the first time, actually going to Houston, where we had to literally learn the piece somewhere and then change it completely to something completely different using the space that we had, but still keeping the framework of what we did. So it was for me that moment of keeping the integrity of the company, but also being able to expand and explore different spaces. So yeah.
Awesome. I'm Kate. I co-founded SYREN, so been doing this for a little while, and I'll save you my favorite memories, or I can keep it present and say right now is one of my favorite memories. But I'm gonna jump right in because you're gonna hear my voice a lot tonight, so I figured I would jump right in and just describe a little bit about what you're gonna see tonight. So you all know you're here for Thina, and some of you are here for the first time. Some of you may have seen us premiere this, as James mentioned, in November, but there are probably some here that are new and wondering what you're gonna see. So I thought I'd take a moment and just kind of share a little bit of how we got here. About a year ago now, we were in the early stages of pandemic. Lockdowns had really started to happen. Things felt very scary. It was a very raw time for our country and the world, really, but here in America, spring and summer was a rough time. So we started in the spring checking in as a company. We would log on to Zoom as just a way to sort of check in with each other. We would sometimes stretch a little bit, but it was mostly a way to connect and to support. We showed up every Friday and just kind of were able to say hi to each other. We would do a little bit of dancing, but it was really a way to connect. Then the pandemic kept going and going and going. And as the summer stretched on, Lynn and I came to a realization that there was going to be no magic button we pressed or the world pressed. There was going to be no date where everything turned back on. I think all of us sort of thought at the beginning, oh, in 2 weeks, we'll all be back to our lives. In a month, we'll be back. And then we realized, June 1st wasn't going to be a magical date. Neither was July 1st. Neither was September 1st. I think that realization that we all kind of had, that this was going to be an evolving, long arc of time in all of our lives. So with that realization came thoughts of how do we deal with this as a company, as an arts organization, as a dance company. And Lynn and I had a lot of conversation and reflection, and we thought we can either continue in this sort of nebulous floating space of hope it gets better soon, or we can do something. So we figured, what do we know how to do professionally? We know how to create, collaborate, and produce dance. So let's do that. What do we have? We have these screens, and we're going to get on them. We're already meeting each other every week. We're going to start making something. So we started to formulate the ideas. I started the music search. I figured we wanted to make something relevant to the times. We were craving creation and connection. I thought it might be interesting to create something to music that was composed during the time of Spanish flu, early 20th century, kind of comparing and exploring maybe what it felt like then compared to now, what was similar, what was different. There were some sounds that would be inspiring to me. I wasn't finding anything, but because Google knows your soul, there was like an auto playlist that came up and recommended, and I heard this song called Influenza 1918, and it's one of those moments when I heard this haunting isn't quite the right word, but it was this longing sound, this reflective sound, almost a prayerful sound, and it was exactly what I was wanting to create movement to. So it was a song that was made during Spanish flu, but it was remastered and reworked now by a composer now living in South Africa named Philip Miller. So this was his rearrangement of that song, working with vocalists that he's worked with across the world that had sent in like voice recordings, and he made this incredible composition and video. And I fell in love with it, reached out to him, and we started creating this. So we did it entirely on Zoom. All of us were spread out. Some of us were still in New York, surrounding areas. Some of us were across the country. And we created this. So that was phase 1 of Thina, which was in November. At that time, Lynn and I were already thinking of phase 2 and what that might look like. We were already thinking of phase 3, honestly, but we had to pace ourselves. So we knew phase 2 would involve, hopefully, the dancers being in the studio present together, masked and socially distant, but together in the studio reworking Influenza 1918. But we also felt drawn to add another piece under this umbrella name of Thina, which will continue to evolve as pandemic evolves. So in searching for music for that, I thought the best place to start was the vocalists that Philip was working with. And how else do you find out about people you don't know in 2021, but you go on Instagram and you find them? So I found Anne, and I reached out to her, and she is just this beacon of talent and generosity and light and beauty and hope. And we agreed to collaborate on a brand new original song for this new addition to Thina, which you will hear tonight. And I created a solo for Rivkins as part of this new version of Thina. We agreed on the concept of hope because, Influenza 1918 was where Reuben Caluza was in the world at that time. That's what we were exploring last year at around this time. Where are we in spring of 2021? What kind of mark do we want to leave on the world? What kind of creation do we want to make? And I wanted to make something about hope. And it is very easy for me to talk about hope and how the world is starting to feel and seem from my fully vaccinated chair here. And it's not everybody's feeling in the world today. And I think it's important to hold space for that. And you think about India and different places in the world. but hope is an important part of what artists do, I believe. And to kind of crack a door open and share that is a gift. And it's a privilege for us to try to inspire you with a little bit of that hope that we've created together as a company and working with Anne. I'd like to share the lyrics to Influenza 1918 because that was a very important part of our journey as we created this process. So myself, I'm sure you're tired of my voice already. I'm going to start, and then the company is each going to read part of this poem, part of the lyrics to you. So I'll begin, and we're dancing to these words in the song. In 1918, there was an epidemic of a certain disease. This disease was called influenza. It killed all our relatives we loved, oh mother, father, sister, and you, brother.
In other families, everybody died. It killed young men and young women and chose the best people. It killed even the handsome and beautiful young ones.
It killed all those who were still in the adolescent stage. It also killed the ones who were engaged for marriage. It killed all those who were just married. It was as if there was a black cloud on earth.
As if it had come for the young ones. It was better with the grown-ups, but bad with the young ones. Parents left orphans in sorrow, worried with nobody to help them.
Well, today we have forgotten about the sorrow. It was also like that to those who were crossing Canaan. When they were in difficulty, they regretted. When all was still and well, they felt happy. They never thought about their creator.
Only those who worshipped him went through. Most of them died in the wilderness. This is a warning to you, brothers and sisters. Don't give in to temptation.
Mr. Reuben Caluza wrote Influenza 1918 when he was 23 years old. And it has been very poignant for me to read these lyrics and to hear these lyrics as the vocalists sing them in Zulu while we've been in rehearsals. Mr. Caluza was one of the leading South African composers in the 1920s and the 30s. He was very well known for his ragtime songs in the Zulu language. His choral works toured internationally, and he was the first African in South Africa to receive a degree in music. And we wanted to share these lyrics with you, not because our dance is a literal translation of them, but in order for you to have the same frame of reference that we did as we were creating to and listening to the music. And it's important to understand what those words mean in our language. And now we'd also like to share a video message with you from Anne Messina, our collaborator on the new section of Thina.
Hi, my name is Anne Messina. I'm a classical singer, a theatre performer, a collaborator, a creative from South Africa. I'm a former member of the Grammy Award-winning Soweto Gospel Choir, and we've performed with the likes of Johnny Clegg, Angela Kidjo, Peter Gabriel, just to name a few. And also, I have been working with Lebo Mashile, our South African poet. We did a production called Venus versus Modernity. And I'm also been part of our international acclaimed choreographer, Dada Masilo. She's doing a beautiful production called Sacrifice. And I've also been working, it's a lot. I've been working with our greatest, my greatest composer, South African composer, Philip Miller. I've been the voice for his compositions, and also till this day, I'm a part of William Kentridge's productions called Refuse the Hour, Paper Music, Head on the Load, just to name a few. And I have been working with Philip Miller for years, and Kate heard my voice when I was singing Amazing Grace in one of the videos that we have posted. And she loved my voice. And yes, she contacted me. We spoke about her production. And yes, I agreed to collaborating. And I composed a beautiful song called Hope for this beautiful production that you're about to see. And also, yes, it has not been an easy process because working remotely, but it was doable. I guess it's our new normal, you know? And I've always wanted to say that art has always been a universal language that has been used to give hope to the world. Enjoy the show, and I wish you the best.
We're so thankful to have been working with Anne, and we hope to continue working with her. So we are about to show you Thina. I wanted to explain very briefly what you're going to see. So the first thing that is going to be shown is the recording of the Thina Influenza 19 group dance section that was aired in November right here, thanks to MOS. So we're going to play that. It's about 5 minutes. And then we have a little slideshow just showing what it was like for the company to get back in the studio over these past few weeks in New York City. So a little slideshow of kind of what that looked like. And then we are going to show the recording that was just done this past week in the studio, masked and socially distant, with the company in New York, of the new reworked group piece Influenza 1918, and it goes right into the solo for Rivkins using Anne's beautiful composition Hope. So without further ado, we present to you Thina. Thank you.
Yes, and we are back live after that exclusive premiere with the amazing faces that are on your screen right now, SYREN Modern Dance. Once again, I'm James Monroe. I'm the producer of adult programs at the Museum of Science Boston. I'm thrilled to be here with this amazing company to talk a little bit about their process and what it's been like creating art, incredible art at that during this time of pandemic. If you have questions for SYREN, you can still submit those by going to slido.com and entering the code SYREN, SYREN, and also make sure to visit the virtual program at the address that's scrolling at the top of your screens as well to find out more about who's been involved in this wonderful evening. Hi, everyone. How are you? It's so great to see you all. How's everything going? Good. It's so weird. I can't wait till we can all be together in the same room. But thank you for being here virtually with us and making tonight possible. As we've talked about, we've had the pleasure of hosting you on site here, and then of course the Zoom performance in the fall, which was incredible. And as we've heard and talked a little bit about tonight, New York has opened up enough that all of you were able to be in the same rehearsal space safely, but in the same space together. It was incredibly moving to see you all performing together again, even through a screen. And so that's kind of where I want to start. I'd love to go around and just hear from some of you about what it was like the first day of coming back into the studio after a year of collaborating solely virtually. What was that moment like in that first day of rehearsal? Alice, why don't you start us off with that? Any thoughts? Any recollections?
Sure. Oh, yeah. So I actually remember talking about this in the studio with the company members. When I first got into the studio, I don't know how long it had been, but seeing the Marley on the floor and the mirrors and the poles that are always in the way because it's New York City and none of the studios are just clean. But I just remember I had to just walk. I just had to walk around in the studio, feel my foot on the Marley on the sprung floor again. I felt like I had to lie down on the floor. That was another thing. In my apartment, I don't have enough room to just be an X and lie all the way down. And here I had the space and it was all right, this is the floor and floor work. And just it was just it was new, but also the same, all at the same time.
That's incredible. I hadn't even thought about that, right? My mind went to how exciting it would be to be with other people, but to be in the environment of the dance studio and the floor, that's incredible. Rivkins, how about you? What was that first day back to be back with your friends and your company?
It felt great. Honestly, it really did. Because I mean, Siren is a unit, so it's like, granted, we did perform virtually this whole piece, but it was even better to actually like perform it all together and to actually feel the energy of each other, to like actually go through movement together, understand like more connection, and just build that whole like frame that we always do. It felt like we were gone, but we like never left, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
I love that. And you that's a good segue. Kate, I want to talk a little bit about like the process this second time around. In the fall, we talked all about how you really had to, like everyone, pivot and figure out a way to sort of keep moving forward while everyone had to be separate. And I'd love to just hear about like what the process has been like for you and the piece since November. When did you realize that like maybe this next phase you'll be able to all be together? Was there a moment that you started to realize that like maybe the time is falling into place that we can actually perform this as a group? And was there ever any hesitation in moving forward? Because it had to have been a little bit of like a culture shock to finally be in a room with people again after so long. What was that like over the past couple of months?
Yeah, I mean, I think the plan was always for the next phase to get us in the studio together. We assumed it would align with, guidelines being masked and distant, but being in the studio together, we assumed we'd be within capacity once the studio, like constantly checking in with what would be possible. And as with like, I feel like everything with the pandemic, there was a lot of gray area for a long time. But as soon as the restrictions were lifted enough, that some of the studios were opening. We worked with a wonderful dance studio in New York, PMT, and they were incredible about just implementing straightforward, safe policies that, like, yes, dance studios can open in New York. Like, we can follow the regulations once it was safe to do so. We had to sign waivers that we wouldn't be touching. We would stay under capacity. We would be masked the whole time. And we were like, no problem. Let's get in the studio. So I don't think there was hesitation. I guess I can't speak for everybody, but I feel like by the time we got into the studio in April, everybody felt comfortable enough at that point. And although we had not been in the studio together, many of us have been teaching or have dabbled in, started to come back. I have been teaching in person in various formats since September, really. So sometimes in a gymnasium, sometimes outside. There's nothing like being with my company. This is my life's work. So it was, of course, emotional and very different, but I was lucky to have been at least moving in some way with other humans. So that was my experience coming back.
And one thing I always love, and I have from the beginning of getting to know the company, is the way, and Rivkin, you touched a little bit on it, but the way that you all talk about having a certain sort of like artistic intimacy with each other when you're performing and when you're building a show, hearing each other breathing, feeling each other's sort of physical and emotional movements. And I know that to a degree this was lost when you were, developing the piece virtually over the summer and in the fall. And I'm assuming that started to come back when you were in the room together. Was it sort of like heightened in any way, or did it even like take some time to sort of get back into the groove of things as a company? So Jessica, any insights on that?
Yeah, I think, COVID has definitely revealed how antisocial I think being virtual all the time can make humans. It definitely felt odd, but also comforting to be back in a creative space. And I think some of those beautiful moments that can only come out of people actually being present creatively are able to happen. Let's say we're workshopping a new phrase or something. It's that moment that's a mistake that someone makes in the corner. Like Rivkin takes something to the floor, or one of us does the incorrect arm, but it ends up making a more interesting moment happen. And I find those don't happen if you're trying to work over Zoom. It's just less organic. So it's almost like the mistakes that create the beauty, It's like, and not necessarily just a mistake, it's the experimenting along the way that can create some of the more beautiful moments in a piece that were unplanned. It's like that in Serenade, the Balanchine piece, when there's the last girl that runs in. She was late to rehearsal. So he kept it and liked it. You know, it's sort of that same thing in our creative process as well.
Awesome. And Victoria, how about you? Did things just sort of click back into place that day, or did it take some time to get used to actually performing next to other people rather than in your living room?
I think the energy and the intimacy did come back very quickly. Just being able to feel the others around us. Like the first time that Kate put on the music for Influenza 1918, we all just like got in places and we did just the first like 2 8 counts of the movement, and Kate fully started screaming, but you could like all of us could feel it. It was just this like, it was just like, oh, that was what it was supposed to feel like from the beginning. and I, you know, and I see Alice next to me and we're together and we're not over Zoom and there's no lag, and it feels like we're back to like what Reuben said, like we are a unit, we're a team. It's like the company it's like this little family, and it feels so much better to be moving next to someone 6 feet apart than when I was hitting my bedroom shelves. So
amazing. Lynn, I wanna ask you about things from like a storytelling perspective. Were there any new layers to the piece that you discovered by being in the rehearsal room together that weren't sort of there or discovered when you were doing this virtually?
Sure. I mean, I can't speak for everyone because we all have our own narratives going on in our head, but I know for myself, I found, I don't want to say kind of a dissonance, or just, there was this, like Victoria was just recounting, like this sheer just joy of moving with these humans again in the space. But yet we're still dancing to Influenza 1918, and we're still in a pandemic. And so that layer of kind of putting those two feelings and feeling all of that in the space was definitely present for me. Very different feeling from hearing the words and dancing by myself in my living room and completely counter to how we work when we're in person. We were actually actively trying to not look at each other on the screens because of the lag, and it messes everything up, which is, we don't ever try and do that. Our company, at least, like we're, any chance we get, we're even peripherally, if like Rivkins is here, it's like I can feel his shoulder blade moving even if I can't see it. It's just what's happened when we worked with each other for 6 years. Like I've worked with him, and so to suddenly be able to have that layer, and our process was really short, so I was kind of still feeling that high of being back in the room, bumping up against this reality. And like Kate said in the beginning, and because it is true to the reality of the world, like we're getting it to experience this small morsel of hope by bringing our work. And even though it's hopeful, it's still for us, it's like normally we're giving ourselves and these people 5 to 6 months of work during the year. Mm-hmm. And this season it was barely 2. So it's like, it's this just kind of constant push and pull between the hopeful and the good that's happening. And yet we all, on so many levels, still have so much work to do.
And since the fall premiere, there's an entirely new segment that's been added to the piece, and in the form of a solo performance by Rivkins, amazing, by the way, and features the music of Ann Messina, who we heard from, who is incredible. And I wish that we could have had a whole hour of just her talking about her work. But I'm just curious about how this came to be. I know Anne talked a little bit about, Kate, how you discovered her music and approached her, but can you talk a little bit about how that collaboration came to be? Was it always intended to be a solo? And what was it like collaborating with Anne across the world?
Yeah, sure. It was always, this idea of a solo was very intriguing to both Lynn and myself. We always discuss artistic ideas before we implement. So it just felt right. And there was something then about once we decided to work with Anne, almost like this stripping away of like the stage and the fact that it's a cappella, we decided, we had talked with her about using instruments or what this was going to sound like. And I was just really drawn to this like idea of simplicity and just like purity. And a lot of times in a dance piece, it'll be like, if there are sections, it'll be like the solo or the duet, and like a group traditionally like ends it. But I really liked the idea of flipping that order and sort of like distilling like the feeling of it to like this solo piece, both in her voice and in Rivkin's movement. And yeah, I just, as far as how it came to be, like I had mentioned, I heard her voice in Philip's music, and when I reached out to her, I mean, I literally just saw her sing Amazing Grace on Instagram, and I was like, we have to dance, we have to dance with this woman, like whatever we have to do, we've got to do it. And it was just also like the thread of like the sound in that world that we were already in from Influenza 18, like her voice is literally part of that. So I felt strongly about connecting that world. And then as soon as we talked to her, she, as you could see and hear, is just this like beacon of beauty and warmth and hope. And just like speaking to her was just inspiring, and it was awesome to work with her. We Zoomed a bunch, we talked a bunch, we had a few back and forths with like email files listening. And she came to a rehearsal. She got to meet the company on Zoom. And one day we hope to be together and perform it live. I can't even wrap my brain around how that will feel, because I believe it will happen someday that we will perform this together with her, or Rivkins and her will perform together live. So, yeah.
We'll put it out there in the world. And,
yes.
I do want to, Rivkins, what was your interaction like with Anne? Kate just mentioned that she popped into a rehearsal. Did you get to spend any time with her or hear sort of about what inspired her in composing the song or in her music in general? And were you able to infuse any of that into your performance?
So this is my first time meeting Anne through collaborating with her in this work. So, I follow her on Instagram and I've watched a couple of her videos. And I'm like, oh my God, this woman, she can really sing. Like, it's just like a voice. And it's like a voice you can't help but like stop and listen to. And even with doing the solo, it was like, I felt like I had to, dancers use the music, but I really felt like I had to like use her voice to like get me through it. Like every note that she sang, like it just like literally kind of like pushed me even harder, if that makes any sense. And it was just great. She's just a wonderful person. I've had a couple of conversations with her on Instagram, and she's just all like super here for it and just super supportive. And I just love how like we can blend these two art forms together and create something so beautiful.
That's awesome. And hopefully Anne is watching or will watch afterwards, and we all love you, Anne. We wish you were here. We feel you here. I want to sort of broaden the conversation a bit. Obviously the pandemic has devastated so many industries, but especially the performance arts community and the industry over the past year. And I'd love to just get some personal insights of where you think the industry stands right now. I've continued to call this piece sort of an example of artistic innovation and perseverance during this time of separation. But I'm just curious, where does the industry stand now? They just announced that theaters can reopen in May, right? In New York, and Broadway already has a game plan for September. So what are your personal experiences? Alice, any insights there?
I do think that things are opening up, not just because that time has passed, but also because it's getting warmer. And I feel that this summer we'll be able to host more opportunities, just because you will be able to go outside, and outside there's just more opportunities than when you have to come inside and there's more regulations and rules and stuff. But yeah, I mean, as of now, I'm mainly just thinking of the warmer weather bringing more opportunities. And we can only hope that going into the holiday season that maybe something will be there by then, or something will have worked during the summer that can transfer over. But as of now, there's still nothing really like set in stone for the future.
Yeah. And Jessica, how about you? What are you hearing from your colleagues, your community? Is there hope? for the future?
Ooh, good question. Is there hope? I do think there is always hope. There is always hope. I do believe, though, that it has been very tough on the concert dance community in particular. Pre-COVID, concert dance has been fighting to stay alive for a while. We might have that financial backing in the same way that Broadway does. So not that I ever think separation is good, but I do think that they just like live in their own extra wonderful world of like they're for profit, they're highly funded, and they're often backed by large names to help bring tickets in. I think concert dance always struggles to find its footing within the sort of dance community. People support each other, but I do think we're always trying to find ways to reach out to, I guess, the general public, which is a terrible way to phrase it, but maybe a better way to phrase it is people who have not yet been exposed to concert dance. So I think that was already an issue, and I do see it still, presenting a bit of a challenge just as we come back. So I think companies are trying to find their feet and wet their toes and see what they can do. I think people are being forced to be more innovative and creative. This is one example of trying to make something happen even within a really challenging situation, and it's beautiful. And I do hear from other companies, I see people are putting on, car park performances and like gazebo performances, and New York City is offering I think you can close down a street, put in a proposal, close down a street, host an event. Those sorts of things are happening, which is amazing. And I hope that people are pushed to innovate more through this challenging situation.
Yeah, and Victoria, that leads me to my next question of, like, how do you think this year will affect the industry looking into the future? Like, do you think there will be long-standing effects to the industry that performers and creators are going to have to sort of continue to navigate even in a post-COVID world?
I do. I do think that even though like it's I do think there's hope, and I do feel like we are turning a bit of a corner. I think this year has definitely set the concert dance world back quite a bit. So I think it will be just like a slightly longer recovery than it would be for like what Jess was saying, like for an industry like Broadway that has such intense funding. But I think that it also might just be influencing the type of work that's being made. And just focusing on not only like human connection, but human experience, because I feel like this year has also made everyone a little bit more just aware of the things we take for granted. So I think that it could also be a wonderful thing for the concert dance world. Just like in how we approach it going forward. But honestly, that's a tough question, because I don't really know if I will have an answer until like it all kind of plays out in front of me.
Totally. No crystal ball for sure.
Yeah.
But I think it's true. I mean, we as an industry, a museum industry, like we know that we're going to be dealing with, a new normal and sort of finding our footing as we continue on. So I am hopeful that things start to open up again for all of you and for the industry in general, both here in Boston and New York and all over the country and the world, really. Lynn, before we head to a Q&A, I have a double question for you. Yes. I'm just curious, like, is there anything that, that you've learned during this time that you're going to take with you forward as a performer or as, the co-head of a company? Is there anything that you've learned that has been positive and that you're going to carry forward with you? And then what is the future for SYREN and for Thina and for this piece?
How long do you want to stay? Yes, I have learned I have been trying to learn a lot during this time. And there's a great deal that I hope to continue to bring to my work as a performer and as a leader of a dance company, to go forth to reap the benefits of getting to be so lucky as to come through the pandemic and to keep making art. It's a great responsibility and is a great gift. And I want to get back into the stage, but as much as I want to bring dance to even more places, we perform in, we'll always treasure our luxurious theaters. And that, like I said before in my intro where I apologize, my sound was terrible. The theater will always be our first home. But dancing in my living room this year taught me how privileged that is, and how much I want to keep being bold and trying to bring our work to other places as well, and spaces, and to other people. As far as SYREN, yes, there's a future for SYREN. Kate and I are far too stubborn and persistent for there not to be a future for SYREN. But in all honesty, because we are inspired endlessly to communicate with people by moving our flesh and bones. And so we will continue onward. We have plans for the third phase of Thina. We have some hopeful other plans that we can't divulge at this moment, but the company will continue. Some of that will depend on how opportunities unfold through other spaces and presenters. But then, as always, it will depend on our vision. And at some point, like we did with Thina, we will just decide to go onward with what we can do, regardless of other entities, because we have to keep creating and dancing. We've had 2 big moments of pivot in the company in 2011 and now. And during those hardest moments for us, we've always put everything else down, or in this case, we had to put everything else down, but we have to keep creating. We made this company to create dance. And so when everything else seems like it's hitting the fan, we just stop and we focus on the seed of creation, and then use that as our leading and our guiding light to get through, and hopefully get through better and stronger, and be more financially viable for these wonderful artists and ourselves. And so, not to be cagey, but there aren't a lot of details I can give you dates for now, but there's absolutely a future for us to keep going and to create, because that's what we do.
I love it. And we're thankful that you keep doing that. And, you mentioned being bold, like all of you have been so bold over the past year. It's been so great to be able to watch you. And I know our team has been in awe at how the 6 of you have continued to pivot and still create incredible work during one of the scariest scientific times of our lifetime. I won't be as cagey, and I'm going to be hopeful, and I'm going to put it out in the world that third phase of Thina we will continue to be a part of that. That has been the goal for us, to be able to really trace the development of this piece from virtual to finally when we can all be together watching you do this on stage. So as long as you will have us, we definitely can't wait to have you back. And everyone out there, if you're based in Boston, make sure you're paying attention and keep an eye and an ear out for when they will be coming here for a very, very, very soon in the near future season. So I want to jump to the audience Q&A because questions are rolling in. Again, you still have time to submit a question for the group. You just go to slido.com and enter the code SYREN. I'm going to start. So, Kate, this is a great one. What advice would you give other creatives who have been struggling through times of crisis when it seems like everything is out of their control? Kind of ties to sort of what Lynn was just talking about, how you all handle it. Any advice on that?
Yeah, I would exactly. Our most successful moments in our company history have been when we focused on what was important in that moment. For us, that is usually coming together as a company and creating dance and finding a way to share it. Really, as simple as that. So when there are 4,000,011 other things we've got to do as a company and with our board and to strategize. But when we peel back those layers and we focus on, okay, what is that next goal? What is it? Okay, we're going to make a piece, we're going to create it on Zoom, and we're going to premiere it with MOS in the fall. Got it. Then you implement the plan, then you figure it out, but once you have that seed, then you make it grow, you water it, and we're far too stubborn to do it any other way. So it's one plan at a time, but we make sure it comes from deep within. And I think that's the key. We try to work in the most genuine way we possibly can. We hire people that share that value system, and we follow our gut and our heart.
That's great. Alice, how about you? Any advice to creatives out there coming off of a really tough year? Or creatives that are about to enter, their phase in the industry, right? Whether they're finishing up school or they've decided that this is what they want to do. Any advice out there? You're on mute, Alice. It happens.
So sorry. It's because my dog was barking. So I had to mute my screen for a bit, but now she's not barking. So sorry about that. I feel that, whatever route you're going in, whether it is in the arts or you found that it's not the arts, but I have found that when time is difficult, I just need to sit and I just need to breathe. And I need to maybe take time away from that thing that I'm trying to make happen. And sometimes, being an artist, you have to remember to be a human. And so you need to take care of yourself and your health and your connections and your family and all of that. And when you're able to then step away from it sometimes, and then all of a sudden it comes to you. That's how it is for me. For me, it's I step away and then it comes back to me in tons and tons of everything that I want to do. And then I'm so inspired. I guess for creatives who are just entering now, because I know that there are students who will be graduating from conservatory soon. I think it's just to know that the dance community really wants something to happen. We're not going to let it just die down. So find those people who are trying to create, or even with your fellow graduates, create something. You're all coming fresh out of that boat, and you have all these tools, and you have this strong voice that really wants to say something and really wants to move and tell stories to other people. And through social media, you're becoming more aware of all these things and all these backgrounds that you can give more voice to. So I feel like you're in a very strong place to just go out there and share what it is that you really, really have been trying to say, or you haven't been able to say, and just really bring it out into the world.
And Jessica, I'm going to put this question to you too. I think it's really important, especially when thinking about students who are going to be graduating. I live near the Boston Conservatory in Berkeley, and so I see these students, you can see them rehearsing when I'm walking the dogs, and you see them out and about, and I wonder, what should they be prepared for? What is it, or are things going to hopefully just go back to how they've been? Any advice for the students? I'm just so curious about this, and I feel for students of all sort of industries, but I'm curious about your thoughts on this.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, Victoria went to Boston Conservatory, right?
Ah.
Yeah, she did. I did. Alum of Boston Conservatory. I just had to give her a little shout out there. It's funny because I think, even my graduating year, I feel like it really took me at least a year to find my footing in the New York City dance scene. And that was, in theory, a good year. It wasn't a COVID year. There was no pandemic. And that was a huge challenge for me to navigate. And I do think that conservatories could do a slightly better job of preparing dance students for the realities of a dance world schedule a little bit. I think key things are find something that's going to sustain you, whether that's teaching, maybe you're in fitness, maybe you're a yoga instructor. If you can, avoid bar work. These are just really practical tips. So many beautiful, stunning fellow graduates of mine ended up bartending or working in restaurants. And unfortunately, that kind of a schedule is so hard on your body. And then by the time you wake up the next day, you just don't have energy to go audition or take class or create yourself. So I would, on a pure practical level, say find something that you can immediately use to sustain yourself that will allow you to keep a healthy body and mind. And then similar to what Alice said, I think now instead of waiting around for maybe what we think is the traditional dance job, company contract, whatever you may hear in college, I think it's time to just make new things yourself. And if auditions aren't happening, if you can't reach out to choreographers, if there are no spaces for you initially, or what appears to be no space, there's always space for you. There's always room. There's always going to be an open studio. Find it, like Alice said, you and one buddy. Start making a duet. Even if you have nothing to perform for, start making it. Something might happen. You don't know what could happen in the future. And I do think that, it's been touched on a little bit, but people are so eager to get back to performance creation. I think there may be a giant overflow kind of beginning in the fall of just desperate dance artists trying to make new work, or like new festivals, or even just works in progress showings for students. Maybe that's an idea for us to host. I mean, a work in progress evening for new grads or something like that, where you can just try out new work and get feedback from your colleagues. I think there's always going to be space and an eagerness for art. So I would say stay hopeful, and then also be practical at the same time.
I love that. Victoria, this question came in, and I'm curious because, again, even as us as an institution, like, we have learned the value of the virtual platform and what can be accomplished and the reach, and it will remain a part of us, I think, in our work. Would you ever do another virtual production, or would you continue to do virtual work once we're outside of COVID? Answer honestly.
No. No, definitely not. I am so grateful to Zoom and to have these virtual platforms, and it allowed me, obviously, over the last year to stay connected with these lovely people. But it's just so different, and it's just not the same. I will be incredibly relieved to never perform virtually again.
Great. No shame to any creatives out there who will and who get it. No, it's totally, I totally can't even imagine what it was like to have to go through this year. I can't even.
More power to the people who want to keep
I can even handle
it
when I'm just in meetings, let alone trying to show my talent. I can't imagine it. Rifkins, we have a specific question for you, if I can find it. My question is for Rifkins. My name is Henning, and I am a part of a dance group in Boston, and I loved your solo dance. Is it possible you could teach it to me? I think that's a question for Rifkins and Kate as the choreographer, but so tons of love out there. But I think it's a good question of like, if someone out there is watching this and is inspired by what you've done, how can they like take that into their own practice? If someone, for Henning, who watched you tonight and wanted that, obviously you can answer if you can teach him the dance or not, but I guess it's kind of the same question. Any advice for people out there watching as we move forward?
God, well, it's up to the choreographer if I could teach you the choreography, so that's not my call. But I feel just like how when I performed the solo, it's just finding your voice and having your voice, whether it's with your body, whether it's with your actual voice, vocally, and it's really staying strong in that, pushing forward and having that perseverance of like just not taking no for an answer, even though sometimes you might get a no. But it's just always using that no as like fuel to move forward. I feel like that's the best advice that I could give, because that's just who I am personally. Like, I'm just a hardworking kind of person. I just go. Like, it's hard for me not to go. But it's just, that's how you know that you're supposed to be going in the right direction. When you just feel that push is behind you, just like, don't look back, just keep going forward. And that's all I can give for you. So, and I hope it just works.
And Rivkins did a little bit of that on the solo when we were on like the third or fourth take. I wanted him to do it again. He did it beautiful every take, but that was a tricky one. I was like, Rivkins, we're gonna do it one more time, and he pushed through that one more time, and then we got that take, and it was beautiful. But yeah, also getting in touch with us. SYRENDance.org, sign up for the newsletter. We do workshops a lot. We do teach company rep in a lot of our workshops. We find ways to get this work out there. Like, one of the things that is part of our mission is having dance reach people. So, we bring that to our classes, we bring that to performances, we bring that, like Lynn was saying, to museums and gymnasiums and classrooms. So definitely reach out if you're interested in the work. We'll find a way to connect. That's what we do.
We've set Siren work on seniors for their, solos. If you graduate from school, anything like that, like, there's always possibility.
Yep. So Henning, reach out is the moral of the story. We are getting close on time, but there are a couple technical questions that are coming in that I'm also just curious about. Kate, for you, when you first hear a piece of music, do you compose the dance in your head immediately?
Wouldn't that be awesome? No, I do. Some parts I do. I definitely, I listen to it on repeat, My Poor Family, nonstop. And so I do start getting the, at least a rough sketch in my head. I usually come into the studio with some phrase work, and then we do collaborate, and I give them little assignments like, can you try this upside down on the floor? And, we start manipulating the movement a little bit. So it's a mix, but I definitely, when I hear a piece of music, usually have sort of like the arc of the piece and some movement ideas and qualities kind of being drafted as I'm listening to it, and then physically getting in the studio is part me and part them, and we truly collaborate.
That's great. And Lynn, people are asking, how many times do you think that you practiced this piece? Can you talk about the second time around, like, how long was the rehearsal process? Like, how long were you all together in the studio?
Bitty. Literally 2 days. 2 rehearsals for the group section, 4 rehearsals for Rivkins, 4-hour rehearsals. And that might be typical for some people's processes. For Siren, typically we would, if we're making a new work, for instance, TikTok, since that's been the one talked about a lot, we made TikTok over 3 to 4 months, So usually purposely we invest in the time of taking a longer process to make the work, because that's how we prefer it. We like what that adds to the whole experience. So for Thina, and the same in the fall, we met for, maybe eight rehearsals, a couple hours each. Plus I usually do it a little bit in my head, between rehearsals. So dozens of times probably. I don't know, I can't count. But as far as the rehearsal period for the company, quite brief for a few reasons. One, simply resource-wise. We're being very lean and mean with whatever we do. Also safety-wise, so if we were going to be in person, we figured let's keep it as concise as possible. We didn't know when we made the schedule. We are all either fully vaccinated or on the road to being there as it came to pass, but we didn't know what the status of that was going to be when we made the schedule. So we wanted to keep it short also for those reasons.
Awesome. Well, as we approach the end, I have a question for each of you. So very quickly, if we can go around. The theme of this piece and of tonight is hope. What are you hopeful for? So take a second. Alice, you don't have a second because I'm going to start with you, but what are you hopeful for?
I am hopeful for Let's see. Well, I guess everything. I think because, at least in my life, there were a lot of bumps and roads, starting with COVID and everything, and family and stuff. But at least for me, I'm hopeful for my family to be healthy and the people that I know to be healthy. And I know that just for the people that I'm surrounded by are getting healthier and getting happier and getting more confident. So I think just happier all around is what I'm hopeful for.
Victoria, how about you?
I would definitely agree with Alice. I'm always hopeful for happiness and good health, but also for a wonderful future with this company, and hopeful that our third round of Thina will be live in Boston.
Yes, me too. You stole my answer. Jessica, how about you? What are you hopeful for?
Yeah, hopeful. Obviously, I echo like everyone's general well-being here and obviously around the world. And yeah, hopeful that we can partner and move again and dance hard one more time and do that for people so they can see the sweat pour down our faces. I'm hopeful for that.
I love it. Rivkins, how about you?
I'm hopeful for it all. No, actually, I'm hopeful for support. I feel like these times really help people to actually like see a lot of things that needs more support, a lot of things that, whether it's physically, mentally, emotionally, like just support in general, like helping each other, lifting up each other whenever times that we just need it, you know?
I love that. Lynn, how about you? What gives you hope?
The opportunity to move forward, both in time and actually move my body, and to have the opportunity to see what comes to fruition when we all come together and nurture all of the things that we were pondering individually over this last year.
And Kate, last but not least, bring us home. What are you hopeful for?
Oh, no pressure. I guess I'm hopeful for the arts to continue to connect and empower us all across the world. And I'm hopeful for kindness and grace to continue to grow between all of us.
I love it. And I am hopeful for people to keep trusting in science and get vaccinated if you can, so that we can get these wonderful people back on stage in front of all of us where they belong. Thank you so much, all six of you from SYREN Modern Dance. It's always a joy to get to sit down and chat with you, and I know that we'll have so much more collaboration in the future. Lynn or Kate, one of you, can you just remind us and our audience where they can follow you to learn more about the company?
SYRENDance.org is our website. At SYREN Dance is Instagram handle. At SYREN Modern Dance is Facebook. Drop us a line.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you all again. Thank you to everyone at the Lowell Institute for making tonight possible. We could not be here without you, so thank you for your support tonight and all year long with this virtual programming. Thank you to all of you out there watching for spending your Thursday night with us. We hope you will continue to do so for the rest of our season. As you exit tonight, you're going to see a credit slide for everyone that was involved in making the performance video that you saw tonight. And then following that, some information about our next program. Next week, we're here with the team from the Event Horizon Telescope, who are going to talk about how they captured the first photo of a black hole ever and what they've been up to since. So check that out. Thank you all again. Have a wonderful night.
Thank you.
Boom.